The Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge.
Hello and welcome to Cool Fab Racing. This is Red Lodge, round 5 of the 2017 Championship. And we're here at Red Lodge for the second time this season, and we have a full packed schedule of brilliant mini bike, pit bike, sidecar racing and action aplenty, including the likes of Brad Ray, who was featured in 2 races this morning. Coming up next, on track out at the moment, on their warm-up lap, is the AC40 rookies for their 3rd and final race this weekend. After that, it's the Mini GP50s. Senior Mini Motos follow then, and Junior LC40s. Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team is around 3:10 p.m. Then it's the Mini GP70s, Pit Bike Open, AC40 Pro, and rounding out the day with the 3rd and final race, the Mini F1 sidecars. My name is Lester. Thank you very much for tuning in live to us as we get ready for this first race of the afternoon, which will be commentated on by Alex Raby.
The first of the round 3 races gets underway then. The 3rd block of races this weekend and the 2nd block here today. Of course, round 1 took place yesterday. And after our interval break, we continue with the action and the 3rd appearance of the day of the AC40 rookies. Winner first time out, Sullivan Mountsie. Winner of race 2 was Carl Payne ahead of Harrison Crosby and Luca Hopkins, both of whom finished in the top 5 positions in the opening race as well. So on paper, you'd expect Mountsie, Hopkins and Crosby to be among the front runners once again. Pole sitter Carl Payne looking to make it a 2nd consecutive win. Payne hasn't got off to the best of starts though. He's immediately dropped into 2nd position before soaring back around the outside of turn 1 to recapture the lead. So it's Payne in front. 2nd place Harrison Crosby. It looked to me as though Luca Hopkins has got a wonderful start from 3rd on the grid, but didn't have the pace around turns 1 and 2 and has dropped back from the top 2. 4th position is Jamie Woodcock, who started in 4th place on the grid. Close for 5th and 6th places. Sullivan Mountsie going down the inside, challenging for P5. Can't get there for the moment at least. So the leaders coming back round towards us then at the end of the opening lap, with the top 3 closely packed together. Carl Payne in front of Harrison Crosby in 2nd and Luca Hopkins in 3rd. The top 3 separated by less than half a second, with a second's gap behind them to the chasing group. Jamie Woodcock, James Rose and Sullivan Mountsie. We've got a red flag scenario. Red flag for the stoppage of race 3 in the AC40 rookies. So straight back after a break, and we have another delay here with a red flag situation. That's called a halt to race 3 in the AC40 rookies.
The Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge.
Ready. It is go, go, go!
This is the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, the official partner series to the BSB.
So we're currently under a delay for the AC40 Rookies, the third and final race of the day, of the weekend for the AC40 Rookies. We're expected to have a full restart from scratch in a few moments' time, as soon as we get back underway. Big thank you to everybody who is tuned in live online on our Facebook stream. So it's particularly useful for the people maybe at the back of the paddock who don't usually get the benefit of being able to stand next to our loudspeakers. So if anybody wants to find out exactly what's going on, what Alex Raby, the commentator, is saying, maybe direct them to our website, coolfabracing.com, or our live Facebook stream. Always useful. Big hello to Jenny Data, who's tuned into our afternoon stream. Hello, Jenny. And Shona Howe. Still running that competition as well, which will be running up until Thursday from Tamar Racing. Martin Taylor is giving away 2 tickets to next week's Brands Hatch BSB race. And all you've got to do, if you want to win tickets, or if you know somebody who does want to win tickets, just take a picture of your classic 2-stroke machine, post it on the Tamar Racing Facebook page, and a winner will be announced on Thursday on the Tamar Racing Facebook page. So good luck. If you've not already got entered for that, maybe tell someone about it. We've posted it on the Coolfab Racing Facebook page. Maybe you can share it. In case you know a couple of people, I'm sure you do know a couple of people who might want to turn up for the Brands Hatch round. So I'm hearing allegations of rain impending within the next 2 hours, I'm told. Now, these scurrilous rumours may or may not happen. These are not coming from me, so I'll probably end up getting the blame for it not raining, whatever I say. But anyway, so yeah, it is looking a bit more cloudy. I'll say that. Not long now till we get the race restarted from scratch for the AC40 Rookies, and Alex Raby's still here with us, the commentator for today. Alex, been a fantastic day so far.
Yes, it has. I thought you were going to put me on the spot there with the weather forecast, as you did earlier when you asked what the weather was going to be for the rest of the day, and I suppose it's a similar situation to what it was yesterday. It's overcast. It hasn't rained so far, but yep, no reason why it might not, since the grey cloud that was over to the right-hand side of our commentary position first thing this morning is now directly over the circuit. So I suppose there's some logic in those what they were described as scurrilous rumours, weren't they, Lester?
That's what I heard in my ear. There was discussions over the radio, and I heard talk of rain impending within the next couple of hours. So we will wait to see what develops, I suppose. Hopefully not. Let's have a nice, dry, uneventful, non-delayed afternoon, so we can all get back home and ready for school in the morning, no doubt.
You going to school in the morning, eh?
I probably should do, yeah. I have a lot to learn, but yeah. So, riders out on track once again for a full race restart of this AC40 Rookies, and on pole position is Kyle Payne.
Yes.
If I read that right, yeah.
Yes, you did, yeah.
I'm unsure now whether to read the screen that appears on our Facebook live feed, because that caught me out earlier and I ended up sounding stupid. Not for the first time, I should have.
Trust the page, Lester. Okay, here we go then for race number 3 in the AC40 Rookies. The restaging, if you like, the second time of asking. Riders settling back in their original starting position, so anyone who made swift progress from further down the field will have to do their work again. And those who seem to have missed out at the first time of asking have a second chance here. So Carl Payne lining up of pole position, Harrison Crosby alongside. Second row of the grid, Luca Hopkins and Jamie Woodcock. James Rose on the third row of the grid. Alfie Davidson and Sullivan Mounsey. Watch out in particular for Mounsey trying to make his way through. Hasn't got off to a particularly blinding start. Ben Jolliffe certainly has. That was a great run down to the first turn. Ends up getting caught up in traffic. Jamie Woodcock's made a good start up to third position. Not a good getaway this time from Carl Payne, who'll feel very hard done by as he led at the time of the stoppage first time out. So all change on the opening lap then, and from the start, with Harrison Crosby picking up the race lead, Carl Payne dropping from first to fourth position, Jamie Woodcock up to third, Luca Hopkins benefiting to move through to P2, coming around Paddock Bend. To complete lap number one, Crosby 0.3 of a second ahead of Luca Hopkins. Jamie Woodcock now defending against Carl Payne, who's trying to recover. Sullivan Mounsey has moved through from 8th position on the grid and immediately up to 5th, getting the better of Alfie Davidson latterly last lap around. Davidson still on the tail of Sullivan Mounsey from 6th position, and then a pretty big gap to a separate group running further down the order from 7th position and closely packed all the way down to 10th. Harrison Crosby still out in front. Luca Hopkins was faster on the opening lap, but of course coming from the second row of the grid. So the top two are still closely packed together, although they have started to emerge clear now of Jamie Woodcock in third position, Carl Payne in fourth, who's under pressure from Sullivan Mounsey in fifth. Luca Hopkins chasing after Harrison Crosby. He's going to think about a move down the inside into turn one, that little bump on the entrance to turn one. See Hopkins just bounding over that as he tries to pull alongside Harrison Crosby, but fails to do so. So it's still Crosby who leads the way. Hopkins ever closing in second position. Sullivan Mounsey has now picked off Carl Payne to move through for fourth position. And Jamie Woodcock is the next rider in line, and immediately down the inside of Jamie Woodcock into the far end turn. So 2 positions in the first half of this lap. Number 3, Sullivan Mounsey through to third position. Can he now chase after the top 2 in the race, Harrison Crosby and Luca Hopkins? Hopkins being held back seemingly so far by Harrison Crosby, who got away well from the front row of the grid. Hopkins has got gradually closer and closer into this turn one. He does continue with a slightly different line to Harrison Crosby into turn one, but he can't get down the inside. So it's still Crosby from Hopkins, then a big gap to Sullivan Mounsey in third. Luca Hopkins still trying to chase the tail of Harrison Crosby. They're now running at very similar pace, both in the early 54s. But it's Luca Hopkins who has the fastest lap of the race so far. Since joining up to the tail of Harrison Crosby, his pace has been halted somewhat. Sullivan Mounsey more or less running on the pace of the leaders. That's enabling him to drop Jamie Woodcock and Carl Payne behind. Although just as I say that, Woodcock gets a good turn of speed onto the Simpson Straight and closes right back up again to Sullivan Mounsey. Luke Hopkins a little bit further back this lap than he was last lap around, so wasn't close enough down into turn one to try and make a move. Sullivan Mounsey now seems to be defending. He's 3 seconds back from Crosby and Hopkins out in front. Jamie Woodcock trying to come back into the race. He's within a bike length of Sullivan Mounsey as they come into 180. No opportunity to get through there. We have seen 1 or 2 riders make big dive moves from way back down the inside into 180, but other than that, It's been about holding position and tucking in until the major straight, and Jamie Woodcock's just been overhauled by Kyle Payne. So that move came out of nowhere because it looked more as though Woodcock was going to challenge Mounsey, but instead Kyle Payne's got between the two of them. Let's see what Kyle Payne now has, the pole sitter, who finished 5th in the opening race, won race number 2, and now moves into 4th position. Harrison Crosby leading Luca Hopkins, Sullivan Mounsey in 3rd, Kyle Payne and Jamie Woodcock right behind. Kyle Payne with a new personal best of 54.1. Faster than all 3 of the riders in front of him on that lap number 5. And we've got a fall involving Sullivan Mounsey, and then 2 other riders as well have ended up getting caught up in that. Mounsey trying to wrestle his own machine clear. Gets back on board and underway again, but that's going to have cost him a series of positions. That was just coming off Senna through the infield section, and must admit I didn't see what happened to cause that, whether that was Mounsey who went down and others ploughed into him, or whether that was just working his way through lap traffic that posed that challenge. Luca Hopkins again closing on Harrison Crosby. Twice he has managed to reel back in the deficit and bring himself back into contention. A new fastest lap of the race there, 53.7 for Luca Hopkins, behind Harrison Crosby, the race leader. 2 laps remaining for Hopkins to try and land a blow on Harrison Crosby. Kyle Payne has ended up back in 3rd position now after that fall for Sullivan Mounsey, who's dropped down to 9th place. Although he will be looking to get the better of Ronald Harris directly ahead and move into 8th position. Then there's a bit of a gap before he can close down the rest of the pack. Sullivan Mounsey is leading that group now, so he has moved up to 8th position after that fall. But time ticking for him as we are now into the final lap. The leaders, Harrison Crosby and Luca Hopkins. Harrison Crosby with a new fastest lap of the race last time around, a 53.5, so it's going to take something very special now for Luca Hopkins, 0.2 of a second behind coming into the final lap, if he wants to get through to lead this one. Kyle Payne in 3rd, Jamie Woodcock in 4th, Alfie Davidson in 5th. As I said, Sullivan Mounsey made his way up to 8th position on that previous lap, but he is a full 3 seconds down on Ben Jolliffe, who sits in 7th position. Mounsey is closing quickly, but I'm not sure that's going to be quickly enough for him to try and challenge for either 6th or 7th. Ethan Sparks and Ben Jolliffe going together up to the far end of the circuit. Meanwhile, the leaders are coming on to the start-finish straight for the final time, and it's going to be a 3rd different winner in 3 races in the AC40 Rookies. Harrison Crosby takes the checkered flag ahead of Luca Hopkins. 3rd place goes to the race 2 winner, Kyle Payne. Jamie Woodcock over the line in 4th position. So a familiar look to the top positions, aside from Sullivan Mounsey, who ended up falling off coming onto the infield section, taking the 8th position in the end, making up a 2nd on the final lap, but needed more than that if he wanted to try and snatch either 6th or 7th position. So race 3 in the AC40 Rookies, as I said, a 3rd different winner in 3 races. Harrison Crosby taking the checkered flag ahead of Luca Hopkins and Kyle Payne, Jamie Woodcock and Alfie Davidson, Ethan Sparks narrowly ahead of Ben Jolliffe at the checkered flag, Sullivan Mounsey relegated to 8th after his earlier fall, James Rose and Ronald Harris rounding out the top 10.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much to Alex Raby, and thank you very much if you're tuned in live online. And there are many people who are tuned in live online. We're currently into the 3rd and final round of this weekend's racing. The next race out and on track, it will be the Mini GP50 category, their 3rd and final race of the weekend. And that's next. On track right now for the Mini GP 50, third and final race of the weekend, and not all plain sailing for all the riders getting to the grid. This race will be called by Alex Raby.
Casey O'Gorman, winner of race 1 and race 2, starts on pole position, still yet to be defeated in the Mini GP 50s in 2017. The last rider to settle in at the front. Alongside him, Evan Belford, second on the grid. Bailey Stewart-Campbell, 2 third position finishes, starts on P3. The first 2 races in the Mini GP 50 this weekend, the top 3 places have finished exactly the same. Casey O'Gorman, Evan Belford and Bailey Stewart-Campbell, and with pretty sizable gaps between them as well. The more entertaining battle could potentially be for positions further down the order. Lining up 4th on the grid, Emmanuel Brinson. Corey Stainer on the 3rd row, alongside Thomas Gomes. Rounding out the top 10, Finn Smart, Mason Johnson, Jaden Tuma and Sandy Horn. Waiting for the lights to go out. Not a great start from 3rd position at all for Bailey Stewart-Campbell. He's relegated to 4th position around the first turn, although he soars back around the outside of Corey Stainer to recapture 3rd position. So a good recovery there from Bailey Stewart-Campbell, who got left off the line, but Corey Stainer pushed straight back down to 4th position. Emmanuel Brinton with a better start this time around, holding on to 5th position ahead of Thomas Gomes, and then Finn Smart further down the order as they work their way around the far end of the circuit onto the Simpson Straight and back towards us. Casey O'Gorman immediately breaking clear. The closest race at the moment for 2nd position between Evan Belford and Bailey Stewart-Campbell, and then Corey Stainer under pressure now from 4th position. Corey Stainer, who finished 4th last time out, ahead of Emmanuel Brinton by just a second. Well, there's less than that between them in this one already in the early laps. Casey O'Gorman from Evan Belford, Bailey Stewart-Campbell 3rd, 4th position Corey Stainer. That's where the closest battle is. Stainer versus Brinton. Thomas Gomes in 6th position. Finn Smart, Jaden Tuma, Sandy Horn and Mason Johnson all in a group close together, 1.5 seconds between the 4 of them. Coming back down towards the start-finish straight, Casey O'Gorman up front. Commanding advantage now over Evan Belford, who's starting to shake the attentions of Bailey Stewart-Campbell. Corey Stainer fractionally slower than Emmanuel Brinton, who sits in 5th position. Whether he'll be able to find a way through remains to be seen from that P5. Thomas Gomes in increasingly isolated 6th place. Finn Smart coming under pressure here from Jaden Tuma in the race for 7th. So not too much change compared to the 2 previous races in the Mini GP 50 category. In fact, at the moment, the top 6 positions are exactly as they were in race number 2. Seeing those replicated in race 3. Close fight still for 4th position. Corey Stainer holding on for now. Emmanuel Brinton closing in as they come around Paddock Bend. This is the closest the 2 of them have probably been so far in this race. Looking slightly wider, Emmanuel Brinton. 0.2 of a second between them as they came over the start-finish line. Very similar pace. Every rider from 4th all the way down to 10th has set a new personal best on that lap number 3. The pace gradually picking up. Casey O'Gorman with a new fastest lap of the race up front as well, a 47.9. But, well, barring any mechanicals or any surprises here, Casey O'Gorman is going to stretch away to the win, sitting comfortably out in front. Finn Smart under some pressure in 7th position from Jaden Tuma, who looked like he'd almost got alongside there, but not quite. Being held at bay in the end. 4th position close, Stainer versus Brinton. Brinton's got to make a decision about which way to go, but Stainer moves across the track to cover the line and covers off the challenge as well. Still narrowing the gap between the 2 of them. 0.2 of a second between Corey Stainer and Emmanuel Brinton as they come around turns 1 and 2. Corey Stainer holding on to the place for the moment. Brinton pretty close coming off the 180, and then further back That fight that I was talking about between Finn Smart and Jayden Touma. I thought Touma had the position last lap, completely alongside, and makes the same move off 180 this time around to take the place. 7th position then, Jayden Touma comes through, ahead of Finn Smart. Same move 2 laps in a row, but it took till the second time of asking for Jayden Touma to make it stick. And that releases Jayden Touma into 7th position. Touma finished in 8th place last time out, and as high as 6th position in race number 1. Can Touma get back up towards the top 6 in this race 3? 5 laps complete, 7 laps still to go. Finn Smart now relegated to 8th position, and a change for 9th as well. Dylan Mellor getting the better of Sandy Horn. May have a change for 11th position soon as well. I think that might be Holly Harris starting to come through the field. Harris with an excellent ride last time out to take 7th position. 8th in race 1. And just outside of the top 10, there's a pretty close battle going on. 4 riders involved in that fight. Still Corey Stainer holding off Emmanuel Brinton. You sense that the speed is there for Brinton, if only there was a way past Corey Stainer, which at the moment there isn't, and there hasn't been all race so far. Half race distance, Casey O'Gorman leads. Evan Belford over 3.5 seconds in arrears. Brinton trying something different, goes very, very wide through Senna. Straight back onto the tail of Corey Stainer though through 180, still no way past. Trying to mix up racing lines here, Emmanuel Brinton. And coming onto Oak Tree, a huge surge of speed. I thought that Brinton might have been alongside Corey Stainer, but Stainer held the position. Again, Brinton is on the attack. Tried to go around the outside of the S's. It's a long way round there. That left-hander seems to go on forever. And eventually there was no way through. So, still in the same situation, with Corey Stainer holding off Emmanuel Brinton. Thomas Gomes in an isolated 6th position, as he has been for much of this race. Then that group behind of Jayden Touma, Dylan Mellor, Sandy Horn and Holly Harris. Harris having moved through into the top 10 now. I did say previously that Holly Harris was on the march. A new personal best on lap 7, a 50.9. A 50.9, that's faster than anyone outside of the top 5. So Holly Harris, once again, not getting away particularly well, but flying through the field. Another excellent ride so far. Holly Harris finished 8th in race 1, 7th in race 2. And it's coming through the field once again in this one, race 3. Watch out for Holly Harris as the race goes on. 4 seconds, the gap between Sandy Horn and Holly Harris in 9th and 10th positions. And Harris has 4 laps to make up those 4 seconds, but running 2.5 seconds a lap faster than the riders around. It shouldn't take too long to make up some of that deficit. Once again, another new personal best for Holly Harris, 50.5, and I can see Holly Harris coming around turn 2 here, closing in on Sandy Horn, and I suspect that before the end of this race, Holly Harris will appear up in 9th place. No change up front, the battles are further down the order. Holly Harris has breezed onto the tail here of Sandy Horn, up Oak Tree, down the inside, into the top bend, and through quite comfortably for 9th position. Casey O'Gorman then, the leader, ahead of Evan Belford in 2nd, Bailey Stewart-Campbell 3rd, Corey Stainer in 4th, Emmanuel Brinton still trying everything to get through, has been held back all race. It's been a sensible ride from Corey Stainer, who hasn't really put her foot wrong. But Emmanuel Brinton seems the faster of the two, just can't quite find a way past. 2 laps remaining. Casey O'Gorman coming around turns 1 and 2. Evan Belford nowhere near close enough to strike. O'Gorman coming through the lap traffic to maintain a run of unbeaten successes in 2017. Get to round 5 in the 2017 season, you start to wonder whether Casey O'Gorman can incredibly go the whole season without being beaten. That really would be something quite special. Holly Harris just starting the final lap ahead of Sandy Horn in 10th position. Closest battles on the circuit for 4th and 5th, for 7th and 8th. As we come onto the final lap now. Still Emmanuel Brinton trying to find a way onto the tail of Corey Stainer. They come through Paddock Bend onto the start-finish straight to start their final lap. And that means one final assault from Emmanuel Brinton to try and take this 4th position. That's been the closest battle all race. Brinton going for that wider line at the start of the infield section, keeping the speed up, coming out of 180. Just can't quite get close enough. Will the back marker up ahead create an opportunity for that overtaking manoeuvre? The answer to that is no. If anything, Brinton is slower through the traffic, and that enables Corey Stainer to get away and probably settles that position. Meanwhile, up front, Casey O'Gorman comes through to take the checkered flag. Yet another victory for the number 7 bike. Evan Belford second over the line, closed the gap in the end, but O'Gorman backed off the pace on the final lap. Bailey Stewart-Campbell gets 3rd. 4th and 5th positions coming off the final turn. Emmanuel Brinton extremely close. A new personal best on the final lap, but Corey Stainer holds on. So the top 5, Casey O'Gorman, Evan Belford, Bailey Stewart-Campbell, Corey Stainer and Emmanuel Brinton. It's exactly the same top 5 as in race 2. Behind them, Thomas Gomes comes over the line. And just crossing the line now, Jaden Tuma and Dylan Miller in 7th and 8th positions. Rounding out the top 10 will be Holly Harris and Sandy Horn.
Original and best British championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing from Red Lodge.
Enjoying a still dry and still warm weather here at Red Lodge for the time being, as the senior mini motos take to the track. And I believe in the earlier race it was Brad Ray who was out racing, and I can see him, I believe, again on track, which is good news, at least for Brad. Anyway, he didn't I think in that race earlier, Alex, I think he finished something like 5th, unless I'm very much mistaken.
Very good.
I think, yeah, that's the one thing I remember from this weekend.
Very good, Lester. Very good.
Thank you. So yes, the senior mini motos out on track now, and it will be once again commentated on by, yes, Alex Rady.
Are you sure that you didn't just read my notes there, Lester? Did you actually genuinely remember that?
I remembered it.
Wow. Race 3 in the senior mini motos then, and the 2 races so far have both finished in quite different circumstances. Richard Holmes Williams took race 2 ahead of Will Howarth and Brandon Payne. Race 1 was taken by Will Howarth ahead of Brandon Payne and Matt Birkin. Richard Holmes Williams only managed 7th in race 1. Struck back very impressive in race 2 with victory. Let's see if he can make it a second consecutive win. As we get underway with race 3 in the senior mini motos, not such a great start for Richard Holmes Williams this time. Will Howarth directly behind him has already got the better of Brandon Payne. Howarth has beaten Brandon Payne in each of the last 2 races in the senior mini motos. The first time only by a 1/10 of a second for the checkered flag in race 1 yesterday. But certainly the top 3 are back in the positions they were at the end of race number 2, with Richard Holmes-Williams leading the way, Will Howarth up in 2nd, and Brandon Payne in 3rd position. They come on to the Simpson Straight for the first time in what is the final race for the Senior Minimotos this weekend. Onto the final round of races at round 5 of the 2017 FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. Richard Holmes-Williams, Will Howarth 2nd, Brandon Payne 3rd, Matt Birkin sits in 4th position ahead of Bernie Cook. Paul Nicholls has got the better of Josh Dart. It's not been too successful a day for Josh, who had a DNF in race 2. Finished 4th yesterday, but today things haven't worked out quite as planned. Justin Bainbridge, Mark Payne and Andy Weedham rounding out the top 10. Brad Ray hasn't quite made it into the top 10 as yet. As they come on towards the Simpson Straight, it's Richard Holmes-Williams, but he's under extreme pressure now from Will Howarth, and in fact Howarth has made the blast through. Will Howarth takes up the race lead ahead of Richard Holmes-Williams. Holmes-Williams wasn't headed at all in race 2, won by a 5-second margin. Here in race 3, it's Will Howarth who's taken the race lead, and things could be very interesting now for top spot. Will Howarth only narrowly ahead of Richard Holmes-Williams, who's back up the inside, coming off 180. Side by side, Howarth has the inside ground. Holmes-Williams is now going to go for the cutback. Drag race down to the top turn. Howarth gets the power down earlier and flies away. So it's still Will Howarth leading Richard Holmes-Williams in 2nd, Brandon Payne in 3rd. Big gap then to Matt Birkin in 4th position, and not a bad gap behind him either to Justin Bainbridge, who sits in P5. This would be his best result of the weekend as things stand, having finished 13th in race 1 and 9th in race 2. Still close between the top 2. Richard Holmes-Williams swerving left and right, trying to make a decision which way to go to pass Will Howarth. In the end, he ended up sticking behind him, waiting for another opportunity. Birkin, Bainbridge, Nicholls. Bernie Hook has dropped behind Paul Nicholls now. Josh Darter dropping further back through the field is down to 9th. And Mark Payne sits in 10th position. Waiting for the leaders to come back towards our home straight commentary position. Will Howarth holds the lead for the moment. Richard Holmes-Williams looking for a way through. Has got great run onto the Simpson Straight. He's closed right up to the back of Will Howarth. Can he take a lunge down the inside into Paddock Bend? The answer is no. Howarth from Holmes-Williams. This is set to go off up front with a 1/10 of a second between the top 2. Brandon Payne in 3rd. Matt Birkin, Justin Bainbridge and Paul Nicholls. Not exactly in a group, I would say, but there's not too much between any of them. And Brad Ray is challenging down the inside, further back down the field, around turn 2 and onto the infield section to make an overtaking manoeuvre. I do believe that could be for 9th position. He's already got the better of Josh Darter, and I think that was Mark Payne who's dropped down now to 10th place. We'll wait for confirmation from the timing, but it looked to me as though Brad Ray moved through into 9th position there, and onto the tail of that group of 3 riders that I was talking about. Paul Nicholls, Andy Weedon and Bernie Hook. Howarth from Holmes-Williams still up front, 2/10 of a second between them. Will Howarth with a new fastest lap of the race there. Justin Bainbridge has closed right in on Matt Birkin, a brilliant lap last time around. 50.6, a new personal best for this race from Justin Bainbridge, who, as I've said, is already having his best ride of the weekend and may be able to make it even better if he can get up into the top 4. Brad Ray did indeed claim 9th position last lap, and is taking Mark Payne with him as he closes in on Bernie Hook now for 8th place. Coming through from the tail of the grid, Brad Ray. Richard Holmes-Williams this time the faster, with a new personal best on lap number 6. Howarth from Holmes-Williams, Brandon Payne in 3rd. 4th and 5th, Matt Birkin and Justin Bainbridge. Bainbridge looking to the inside, dives through into turn 2. Through comes Justin Bainbridge for 4th position. Birkin can't repay the compliment. Excellent riding from Justin Bainbridge to come through on Matt Birkin. It had been a move that was in the offing for a couple of laps there. He'd gradually closed in. And Brad Ray has indeed got the better of Bernie Hook, and Mark Payne has come with him. So it's now Ray in 8th, Payne in 9th, and Bernie Hook in 10th position. No signs of change up front now because Richard Holmes-Williams had a slow lap there. Not sure what's happened, whether that was mechanical or rider error somewhere. But he's dropped 3.5 seconds back now from Will Howarth out in front. Yes, definitely a mechanical problem for Richard Holmes-Williams, because as he comes through the infield section, he's trying to throw the bike forward. He's almost at half speed as he goes onto the straights. That's where he's going to be most vulnerable. So to lose pace suddenly, well, that presents a real opportunity to Brandon Payne, who was something like 9 seconds back from Richard Holmes-Williams, but is around about 5 seconds away now. We are on the final lap, so Richard Holmes-Williams might just be able to get this machine home. He's coming round the final turn now. Will Howard's already taken the checkered flag. It is going to be Richard Holmes-Williams home for second. 7 seconds lost to Will Howarth on the 2 final laps, and Brandon Payne only finishes 3 seconds back at the checkered flag. Justin Bainbridge gets 4th. Good ride from him. His best ride of the weekend. Gets the better of Matt Birkin. Paul Nicholls in 6th. Andy Whedon in 7th. Those 3 close over the line, Birkin, Nicholls and Whedon. Mark Payne now finishing 5 seconds in arrears of Andy Whedon. Bernie Hook and Brad Ray rounding out the top 10. Ray losing position to Mark Payne and Bernie Hook in the closing stages. Well, a comfortable victory in the end for Will Howarth, but he was much closer than that for the majority of race 3 in the senior mini-motos. Howarth stretching his legs as Holmes-Williams seemingly suffered with mechanical problems on the 2 final laps, but held on for second position.
Certainly was a fantastic race, another fantastic race here at Red Lodge for round 5 of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. And out on track next, it is the 3rd and final race in the Junior LC40 category. Be interesting to see what happens in that race. That's coming up next. Couple more minutes before the next rider's out on track. And it is a little fact that during MotoGP races, which quite rare clash with Cool Fab events, it has been known that some riders have missed their own race because they were in the caravan watching the MotoGP race. I'm not saying that riders are not down in an assembly area right now because they're watching Formula One. I don't think that's the case.
I was wondering if you were about to say that MotoGP riders have been known to miss their race because they are tuning in on the Cool FAB-Racing website and live on Facebook.
Not yet, perhaps. Not that they'd ever admit to. I mean, the closest we got to that is having Danny Kent race with us last year, I think, at a couple of rounds. We've not seen him back since, I don't think. Not here. But anyway, out on track now for the Junior LC 40s. Third and final race from these hard-charging youngsters.
Incidentally, when you mention the Formula One, does that mean Formula One's running up against Formula E this weekend?
It does, yes.
It's a bit unusual, isn't it?
Yes, not that we care because we're all about the mini bikes and such. So we're hearing that there may not be a full complement of people on the grid, but that's for that one person to sort out and realise that they're not in the race, I suppose. So handing over then to the race commentator for this third and final race of the Junior LC40 for the fifth round at Red Lodge. It's Alex Raby.
So for a third time, Ross Maguire and Casey O'Gorman go into direct conflict. Race 3 in the Junior LC40 category. Race 1, Ross Maguire got the better of Casey O'Gorman by a second. Race 2, Casey O'Gorman took his revenge over Ross Maguire, who will take the largest share of the points overall at round 5. Ross Maguire starts on pole position. Casey O'Gorman alongside. Bailey Stewart-Campbell third on the grid. Fourth position finish last time out. Evan Belford on each occasion has come through from 6th on the start line to third position. So watch for that move again from him. He lines up alongside Ollie Walker. Taylor Lawrence in 4th position on the grid. Row 4, Declan Connell and Ryan Hitchcock. And rounding out the top 10, Sandy Horn and Emmanuel Brinton. Well, those are the top positions on the grid confirmed. Just waiting for the rest of the riders to settle in and we can get underway with race number 3. Looks like a slight hold up on the start line here before we get underway with race 3 in the Junior LC40 category.
So a slight delay while we decide whether it's a wet race or not, I suppose. It is currently that there is moisture happening. But is it wet enough to be declared a wet race? That is the question. And when will we find out? That's the bigger question. So one might supposedly say it's spitting at the moment, as a technical term. The
Sounds a little bit generous to me, Lester.
But it's... yeah, well, there was weather forecast.
Weather! There's always weather forecast. You mean wet weather forecast by any chance?
Cover all bases.
There was weather. There was weather forecast. It looks like the riders are turning around and back towards the paddock. And we're going to have a 10-minute delay.
Yeah, has been declared.
A 10-minute delay has been confirmed by race control. So the riders going back to the pits, and we'll wait for them to, well, presumably either get wetter in 10 minutes' time or be completely dry without those 1 or 2 spots of rain within that 10-minute time frame.
Well,
so
I suppose if
a short
everybody,
break for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I suppose if everybody has the option of putting on wet tyres, then that's better than...
Ultimately, it may just dry out over the next 10 minutes, and that would negate the need, which I suspect is probably what is being hoped for at the moment, that those very short, very few drops of rainfall will have been dried off within the next 10 minutes.
And we will come back in just a few moments' time with the start of this wet race here at Red Lodge. So if you're just joining us on our live Facebook stream, we are currently under a slight delay while it has been declared a wet race. And you may be able to see on the Facebook stream riders just checking that the track is actually wet by touching it. Just checking the track is slightly damp. Yes, that's slightly damp there. And that is the true test of whether a track is actually wet. with a few riders just sitting on the grid. Literally sat on the grid. Yes, you are on camera, lads. So yes, we will. There's about 5 minutes to go before the everybody gets kicked out onto the grid to begin the race, whether they have wet tyres on or not. And it's certainly not heavy rain anyway, if any at all. As Roger Keys shakes his head in dismay, almost as if to say, well, it's not raining at all. I don't know what all this is about, but thank you, incidentally, to staying with us on our Facebook live stream. And just a quick reminder as well, for any riders who want a audio download or a podcast of their races, it is available instantaneously as soon as we go off air. Head to the iTunes place where you go and get the podcasts from. Search Cool Fab Racing, and all of the broadcasts that we do in radio form will appear. You can download your particular race and enjoy your win. So interesting methods of drying the track as well, we're seeing. So their riders about to get called back to the pits, and the riders were looked like they were engaging in some nice stories there on the grid, whilst at the same time as drying their grid positions. The most interesting way I've seen a grid slot being dried was to sit on it, I suppose, just then. Not seen that before. I have seen in car racing and also in bike racing, I've seen men with paper towels literally mopping up grid spots, but well, I've not seen fully grown men crawling across their grid spot.
This doesn't quite count as drying your grid spot, but I did see setting fire to the track within the last 2 weeks at the flat track a couple of weeks ago.
Was that a barbecue gone wrong?
No, there weren't many barbecues taking place on the track.
'Cause I've heard stories.
So yeah, there was a fuel spillage on turn 1, and rather than actually cleaning it off, they decided that the simplest way to deal with it would be to set fire to it, which well, it's quite entertaining.
Yeah,
people enjoyed it on the internet anyway.
I'm sure. Yeah, we won't name that particular championship. So minutes to go before the epic start of this next race. And this should surely become a classic race, Alex? I put you on the spot again, sorry.
Well, depends how wet it is, really, doesn't it?
It doesn't.
I know that that heavy rainfall will have played a part.
Well, we had a theory in the commentary box that perhaps the missing rider who didn't make the grid.
No, you had a theory. Don't try and put this on me.
Thought maybe it actually was raining and was time for wets. So that's just a theory. I don't know. I'm not down there. I'm not part of the action. But it has been declared a wet race and is no longer raining, and was at most spitting a little bit.
It would be quite ironic if it actually tipped it down now, because if they had started 10 minutes ago, of course they'd be done by the time it does rain. But hopefully it will stay dry for the rest of today, because we've seen some good racing, and should be some more still to come. Looking forward to the two pit bike races as well. They've provided plenty of entertainment each time they've been out on track.
Brad Ray back out again, I believe, on a pit bike, but not on a sidecar this time round. He said he'll try and do it at Wilton Mill.
Okay,
that's what he says, but we'll see. We'll see whether it actually happens.
To get in some practice first, I suppose.
So as you can probably hear then, the bikes blasting out on track. Now declared a wet race, and the sun is typically bursting through the sky, or trying to anyway, and this better be a good race.
Race 3 of the Junior LC40 category then. And I hyped it up previously, but it's the battle between Casey O'Gorman and Ross Maguire, who have traded top spot and second position in the two races so far. This is race 3. Evan Belford has finished directly behind them in each of the two races so far. Things were very close in race number 1 yesterday. The top 3 separated by less than 3 seconds. Race 2, the spread was greater, with Casey O'Gorman working his way through to the lead quite early and blasting off into the distance. Well, the riders have had the opportunity to make any changes they wanted to. And obviously we have also had the opportunity for the weather conditions just to settle down a little bit, so that at least we know whether it is raining or whether it isn't. Certainly isn't for the moment. Ross Maguire lining up on pole position, then Casey O'Gorman alongside. Second row of the grid, Baby Stuart Campbell and Taylor Lawrence. Row 3, Ollie Walker and Evan Belford. Declan Connell and Ryan Hitchcock on row 4, and rounding out the top 10 on the grid, Sandy Horn and Emmanuel Brinton. Watch out as well for Johnny Garner, starting in 11th position. 7th place finish, first time out. Okay then, we are now getting underway with the long-awaited race 3 in the Junior LC40 category. Fast start from second on the grid from Casey O'Gorman, who flies away from the line, just as he did in race number 2. Side by side for third position. Second place is with Ross Maguire. And look at the lead that O'Gorman already has out front. Third and fourth positions closely packed together. Evan Belford working his way up through the field quickly, as he has done in each of the two races so far. And actually looks as though he may have found his way into third position coming into the far end of the circuit. Casey O'Gorman who leads, no doubt about that, and comfortably so as well. We rarely see the number 7 bike defeated, and this race looks to be no exception. Casey O'Gorman leading by 2 seconds at the end of lap 1. Ross Maguire second, Evan Belford and Bailey Stuart Campbell right behind. Those three locked close together on the circuit. Evan Belford did indeed make that move on Bailey Stuart Campbell at the top end of the circuit on lap number 1, and a separate battle involving Taylor Lawrence and Emmanuel Brinton. Ryan Hitchcock narrowly ahead of Declan Connell, Ollie Walker and Sandy Horn, who rounds out the top 10. Taylor Lawrence overhauled there by Emmanuel Brinton, who comes down the inside, coming up to the far end of the circuit to take 5th position away. So it's Casey O'Gorman in front, Ross Maguire in second place, but that might not be for long. Evan Belford gets moved aside, I think is the way to describe that before they even get to paddock bend, but he's gone to cut back to the inside now and drills the move down the inside into turn 1. Evan Belford to move through to second place at the expense of Ross Maguire, who's relegated to third. Bailey Stewart-Campbell still right on the tail of these two, but Maguire is the rider who looks less comfortable at the moment of the trio, and Bailey Stewart-Campbell will hope to take advantage. Both Belford and Stewart-Campbell faster than Ross Maguire on lap number 2. That's enabled Belford to find a way past. 5th and 6th position, remember, Emmanuel Brinton and Taylor Lawrence ahead of Declan Connell. Small gaps between all of the riders from 5th position down to 10th. Only the race leaders starting to spread away now. Casey O'Gorman in particular, the race leader, 4 seconds clear at the end of the opening 3 laps at the moment. He's running half a second faster than Evan Belford, who sets a new personal best on that last lap. A 49 flat, so a second he's pulled up over Ross Maguire. With Bailey Stewart-Campbell still in 4th position, still trying to find a way past Ross Maguire, who won race number 1, finished second in race 2, and the trend will continue with a 3rd place finish at the moment in race 3. Evan Belford, who finished 3rd in each of the first 2 races, looking set for 2nd place here because he's opening out that gap over Ross Maguire. And the closer fight is over 3rd and 4th, with Bailey Stewart-Campbell closing all the time on Ross Maguire, and particularly coming halfway down the Simpson Straight. And Maguire does lose that position. He's going to cut back down to the inside on turn 2 then and move Bailey Stewart-Campbell aside to recover the place, but he's certainly not having it easy here. And Emmanuel Brinton has joined the back of the well now, so Maguire is holding back the pace of the riders behind. Bailey Stewart-Campbell had a couple of goes, and particularly on turn 1 seemed to be making something up. Brinton runs wide up, coming on to Oak Tree, and that drops Emmanuel a little bit back from the 2 riders ahead, Ross Maguire and Bailey Stewart-Campbell, but that ground is made straight back up. So 3rd, 4th and 5th positions very closely packed together as they come down the Simpson Straight once again and on to paddock bend with 2 laps to go. Probably the most entertaining of the junior LC40 races so far, particularly that battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. Worth waiting for as well after that 10-minute delay. Emmanuel Brinton closing here on Bailey Stewart-Campbell, who had to back out of a move on Ross Maguire. Has that given the run to Emmanuel Brinton? The answer is no for the moment. Brinton, though, keeps coming before backing out of it for the left-hander. And the status quo is maintained. Maguire, Stewart-Campbell and Brinton in 3rd, 4th and 5th. Taylor Lawrence 3 seconds back is still holding on ahead of Declan Connell, but only narrowly. Ollie Walker, Ryan Hitchcock and Sandy Horn rounding out the top 10 as things stand. Still watching Emmanuel Brinton completely alongside Bailey Stewart-Campbell at one stage there, and tucked right onto the tail of Stewart-Campbell, who's going for the inside line on Ross Maguire. This is the move that triggers a potential overtake. Maguire loses the place, then cuts back to the inside to come through. Brinton is going to try and get in on the action as well, but can't quite. Didn't manage to stay close enough coming off paddock bend. Bailey Stewart-Campbell diving for the inside on Maguire, who's clearly holding the 2 riders up behind him. Stewart-Campbell first in line to have a go. On a couple of occasions he's got past on turn 1, but Maguire's showing such a cool head to then slice back to the inside and recover the position. Great racing being shown by Ross Maguire, even though he's not the fastest of this trio. And incidentally, Taylor Lawrence, Declan Connell and Ollie Walker all tucked right in behind. Checkered flag shows for Casey O'Gorman. Evan Belford 2nd. But what will be the outcome in the battle for 3rd? 3 riders separated by less than 0.2 of a second over the line. But it's Ross Maguire who holds on. Bailey Stewart-Campbell in 4th and Emmanuel Brinton in 5th. In the end, neither Stewart-Campbell nor Brinton could find their way past Ross Maguire. Declan Connell also holding on in his separate battle with Taylor Lawrence, Ollie Walker, Ryan Hitchcock and Sandy Horn rounding out the top 10. A comfortable race victory for Casey O'Gorman and a solid second there for Evan Belford, his best result of the weekend in the junior LC40 category. But it's yet another top 3 finish for Ross Maguire, the winner of race number 1, who comes in 3rd behind Evan Belford and Casey O'Gorman in race 3 in the junior LC40s.
It was worth waiting for in the end. Thank you very much. Alex Raby commentating on the final race of Junior LC40. And next out on track, it is the final race in the Mini GP70 category. And that's after the Pit Bike Open and Moto Team race, of course, which is next. After Mini GP70 a bit later on, it's the Pit Bike Open. AC40 Pros is the penultimate race of the afternoon, and the Mini F1 sidecars once again round out our cool weekend of fabulous racing. Thank you. So Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team race number 3 is next.
When the lightning strikes, let's stand together. When the moment comes, let's stand as one. In electric light, the world is watching. When the moment comes, one by one, let's stand together. The race to the future is now. 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 Let's stand together.
The original and best British championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing from Red Lodge.
With the Pit Bike 140 machines providing the soundtrack to this next race. And it's Jamie King who is on pole position for this next race, and Alex Vella in second, according to Alex's notes.
On to the grid then for race 3 in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team categories. Will Howarth, Darren Anderson and Fraser Kinnaird have been the top 3 in the Moto Team class on each occasion. Darren Anderson second first time out and third in race number 2. Really close fights we've had between the top 4 in the Pit Bike 140s. Let's see if the same can be said again in race number 3. Alex Vella, who went down last time out as the race leader, winner of race number 1, goes on the outside of that front row alongside Jamie King, the pole sitter and championship leader. King, who came through for second position in race 2. 2 different winners in the 2 races so far. Will we have a third? Alex Vella, the race 1 winner, gets the whole shot. He's first to the first turn. Second place is Jamie King. James Blackburn straight up into third position. He was the victim of that crash last time out in race 2. He's got the better of Jamie King here quite swiftly as well. Across the front of him coming into 180. Vella, Blackburn, King in third. Fourth position, Ryan Vickers, the winner of race 2. Really came from nowhere because he was well adrift in race 1, but in race 2 he was competition to the lead trio and ended up in the right place at the right time to come through for the checkered flag as well. Alex Vella still leading. James Blackburn in second. And Jamie King in third. Important here for James Blackburn to pick up points in the context of the championship after that DNF last time out. As Jamie King comes under intense pressure for third position from Ryan Vickers, trying to find his way through down the inside into 180. And talking about that move, there was someone else further back down the field, right towards the back of the lineup, who had a go at it and almost caused chaos as both riders ended up getting run wide. Back up front with Alex Vella leading the way by less than a second ahead of James Blackburn. Jamie King in third. Ryan Vickers holding that fourth position. Then a bit of a gap to James Ansell, who's had a good ride so far, ahead of Ben Pascoe in sixth. And in fact, Ben Pascoe has now dropped to seventh, trying to recover that sixth position down the inside into turn two. Has to back out of it at the last minute. Will Howarth holds on. Will Howarth, the leader in the moto team category at the moment. It's Darren Anderson who sits second in class. Alex Vella's advantage as narrow as it's been all race, and coming up Oak Tree, James Blackburn with a beautiful run, a switchback up the inside and through he comes into the top turn to take the race lead. James Blackburn out in front now then. Could he become the third different winner in the 3 races in the Pit Bike 140 category? Really has been excellent, the tussle between the top 4, who are all more or less on the same pace. James Ansell having a good race here as well, up in 5th position. Reeling him in now is Will Howarth, who sits 6th in the scratch race, obviously first in moto team, as he has been in each of the 2 races so far. Blackburn has got in front impressively of Alex Vella, but doesn't seem to have the pace to break away, and if anything is starting to hold Vella back. Coming up Oak Tree and up towards the far end of the circuit once again. Still a long way to go, 11 laps remaining in this Pit Bike 140 race. James Blackburn leading Alex Vella, Jamie King in third and Ryan Vickers in fourth. Still nose to tail as they come back down towards us into Paddock Bend along the start-finish straight. Vella waiting for an opportunity to come through. He wiped himself and James Blackburn out of the contest last time out in race 2, so he won't want to do anything too swift or too rash. But while he's being held back by James Blackburn, so is Jamie King, and Ryan Vickers is right with them. James Ansell with a new personal best on the previous lap, but still can't gain in any ground on the top 4. He is, though, maintaining his advantage now to Will Howarth behind. Separate race further down the order involving Sam Clowes on the tail of Sean Whittaker for 8th position. Ben Pascoe further up the road. Of those 2, he sits in 7th. Blackburn almost up the back of Alex Vella there down the home straight, raises a hand in apology. He took to the inside coming off Paddock Bend. Vella moved across to block, and Blackburn just the slightest of touches on Alex Vella, and that's given Jamie King the opportunity to come through for second. So it's Vella, King, Blackburn, Vickers in 4th position. Vella's broken away now. Blackburn going after King for second. King holds the line into the top turn. No change further down outside of the top 3 positions. Alex Vella held this type of margin at one stage during race 2 and ended up giving it away before falling in the path of James Blackburn. Jamie King has moved right onto the tail now of Alex Vella with a 49.1 compared to a 49.3 for Vella. Blackburn's lap was obviously compromised by his misjudgment early in the lap, so he is still half a second down on the race leader. But if you look at them on the circuit, there really is nothing to choose between them. Nose to tail with about 8 bike lengths covering all 4. Further back, watching Fraser Kinnaird move his way through the field, a close squabble for what I think must be 11th, 12th and 13th positions. As Sam Clowes looks for a way past Sean Whittaker in the tussle for 8th. That's going around the top turn as the leaders come past the start-finish line once again. Alex Vella still in front, but at one point he had a 1 second lead. That's been completely eroded, and fairly swiftly as well. 0.2 of a second up on Jamie King. James Blackburn half a second behind, and Ryan Vickers still pegged to the tail of the quartet. Will Howarth now running on the lead pace. He's picked off James Ansell. Doesn't make too much difference in terms of the standings in either the Moto Team or the Pit Bike 140 race, with James Ansell still sitting 5th in Pit Bike 140, which by my reckoning would be his best result of the weekend as well. DNF in race 1 and 6th position in class in race 2 for him. Ryan Vickers dropping back a little from the top 3 on that previous lap as James Blackburn comes through up the inside of Jamie King to move through into 2nd place. Now we're back where we were when all chaos broke loose last time out in race 2, with Alex Vella having seen a 1 second lead eroded, James Blackburn directly behind him, Ryan Vickers starting to slip back, and Jamie King in 3rd. As I said, last time they were in these positions, Alex Vella fell in the path of James Blackburn. He'll be hoping not to do the same here. He looks over his shoulder to check on the progress of his rivals. They're still nose to tail among the top 3. Ryan Vickers the only one starting to slip a little bit backwards, probably to the tune of a second now behind. 0.8 of a second confirmed by the timing loop. Alex Vella less than 0.2 of a second ahead of James Blackburn now. Blackburn setting a new personal best, a 48.9 on the last lap. Faster than Alex Vella's been before in this race. The fastest lap of the race at the moment, a 48.7 from Jamie King, who can only manage 3rd for now. If he could maintain that 48.7 pace consistently, he would be out in front here, but that hasn't been the case as Blackburn tries to go all the way around the outside of Vella, then make the switch back. He's going to have the speed coming down the Simpson Straight for sure. Jamie King trying to tuck onto his tail. Blackburn within a bike length coming into Paddock Bend. There's no way through there, that's the problem. Riders are preparing brilliant runs down the Simpson Straight but then can't make a move. Alex Vella ahead of James Blackburn, Jamie King in 3rd, and Ryan Vickers has rejoined this group in 4th position. Alex Vella is slowing down James Blackburn. The strange thing about this race is that all of the top 4 seem to have the same outright pace. They're overtaking one another, but whoever hits the front then goes defensive and finds themselves overtaken. They're swapping and changing positions with impressive regularity out front. It's excellent racing in this Pit Bike 140 race number 3. Vella, Blackburn, King, Vickers in that order. The order they were in halfway through race number 2. Blackburn diving down the inside, moves across the front of Vella going into turn 1. James Blackburn, your new race leader. And this would be the 3rd different winner in the 3 races in the Pit Bike 140 category this weekend. Blackburn leading, Vella 2nd, King 3rd, Vickers 4th. The winner of race 2 set to miss out on a top 3 place in race 3. Not too much in terms of likely position changes in the remainder of the top 10. Will Howarth, very comfortable leader in the Moto Team class. He's got something like 3 seconds either side of him as well in the scratch race. James Ansell still holding on ahead of Ben Pascoe. Well, I say holding on, he's well clear of Ben Pascoe. 6 seconds ahead of the number 81 who sits in 7th. Sam Clowes, Sean Whittaker and Rhys Garland rounding out the top 10 as things stand. 9 of the top 10 in this race from the Pit Bike 140 category. Ryan Vickers dropping well back on that lap. That must have been something I didn't see, but that was 6 seconds off his usual pace, and he's dropped completely away from the top 3 now in the Pit Bike 140s. James Blackburn still leading ahead of Alex Vella. Can he now start to sprint away? 2 laps to go. Back towards us they come once again. It looks like James Blackburn has opened up a bit of a margin now over Alex Vella. and Jamie King in third, dropping back from both of them. So, as they come into the final lap, barring any dramas with back markers, the positions look fairly settled. Blackburn was held up by one of the back markers for a while there. Alex Vella closes right in. I'm not sure whether he's close enough to challenge or find a way through. Certainly not coming up the hill towards the oak tree. Vella looked like he was waving to James Blackburn up ahead of him. And it looks as though James Blackburn is going to become the third different winner in the 3 races in the pit bike 140 category, eroding the disappointment of the DNF last time out. Alex Vella right behind him as they come towards the flag. But it's James Blackburn who wins race number 3 in the pit bike 140. Great tussle between the top 4. Alex Vella overhauled in the closing third of the race. He takes second. Jamie King in third, dropping well back in the end on the final 2 laps. Will Howarth takes fourth in the scratch race. He's top in the moto team class. James Ansell finishing ahead of Ryan Vickers in the end. So not sure what happened there for Ryan Vickers, but he dropped well off the pace in the final laps there and ends up finishing down in 6th position ahead of Ben Pascoe and Sam Klaus, Sean Whittaker and Rhys Garland. So, race number 3 completed in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team category, with James Blackburn coming out the winner by a 0.3 of a second margin ahead of Alex Vella in second. Jamie King rounding out the top 3, and behind them James Ansell and Ryan Vickers, the closest challengers in the top 5 in the Pit Bike 140s.
Fantastic race. Thank you very much, Alex Raby, for commentating on that. So next out on track is the Mini GP70s, the third and final race of the weekend. It's round 5 here at Red Lodge, and it's seemingly warmer than it has been at any other point today, which is a good sign. Sun not quite breaking through, but we have heat, which is no bad thing at all. So Mini GP70s are next.
The Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge. Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge.
Out on track right now, it is the Mini GP70 bikes for their third and final race of the weekend. These always seemingly guarantee us some good action anyway. And let's hope for more of the same in this final race for the Mini GP70s. Alex Raby is here.
Mini GP70 race 3. The 2 races so far have finished in the same order in the top 3 positions. Louis Rendell ahead of Harvey Claridge and Jay Abel. The top 2 battle between Rendell and Claridge last time out, particularly in the early laps, was highly entertaining, as Lester just described. So we'll see if those 2 go toe-to-toe again. Certainly Louis Rendell, who has the pace advantage. He qualified on pole and he has successfully defeated Harvey Claridge twice. But if Claridge can make the faster start, he could spice things up, as he did in race number 2. Rendell versus Claridge on the front row, Jay Abel and Brodie Crockford on row 2, Callum Beech and Oscar Pinson row 3. As we get underway, another flying start from Harvey Claridge. And from a neutral's point of view, I suppose that's what we wanted. The faster of the two riders so far, not making the start this time around, and now we'll see the overtaking prowess of Louis Rendell that we saw last time out. What a weekend it's been for Louis Rendell. If there were a rider of the day, it would have to go to this young man, because he has stepped up enormously since the opening round of the season, and even since our last visit here to Red Lodge. Louis Rendell starting to dominate this class this weekend. Only second place at the moment though, Harvey Claridge getting off to a brilliant start. He leads the way as they come towards the end of lap number 1. Claridge in front, Rendell in second, Abel in third, trying to keep with the top two, but that's not easy. Their pace has been vastly different to that of the riders behind. Abel in third, Crockford fourth, Jeremy Knight up to 5th position after his DNF last time out, Callum Beech in 6th position. Oscar Pinson dropping back in the early stages. He drops from 6th on the grid and down to the 10th position. So we've been set up quite nicely for a battle between Harvey Claridge and Louis Rendell here. Claridge, who has twice finished second to Rendell this weekend. Claridge, though, the higher in terms of championship points. It's been a successful weekend for him in terms of amassing those crucial points in the series standings. Whether he'll be able to pick up the 25 here remains to be seen. He's leading Louis Rendell, but the gap is coming down, or has come down consistently since the opening lap of the race. Where will Rendell try to make his move? Gets a good run onto Oak Tree. Not good enough for now, at least. Harvey Claridge holds on. Harvey Claridge from Louis Rendell. Jay Abel 2.5 seconds back from second place, so he's in an isolated third, and Brodie Crockford in 4th position. The closest company he's got is Jeremy Knight, a second back from him. Just over 11 laps to go at the end of lap number 3. A new fastest lap of the race from Louis Rendell. A new personal best from Harvey Claridge, who is trying his utmost to stay in front. Closing right up now for 5th and 6th positions. Callum Beech right on the tail of Jeremy Knight as they come around turn 2. Beech almost alongside through the infield section. That's tough to do. He's going to try and get the run off 180 on the inside, but again, not quite close enough to make that move. Claridge, Rendell, Abel, Crockford and Knight rounding out the top 5 positions. Where will Rendell try to make his move? For the moment, it's Harvey Claridge holding on. He's gradually upped his pace as this race has gone on, but so has Louis Rendell. That lap, Rendell's pace was held back by Claridge's. They're running in the 47s, the only riders running in the 47s. That's why they've opened the gap behind them to over 4 seconds now, to Jay Abel, who sits third. Callum Beech going through the infield section now, right on the tail of Jeremy Knight, but still no way through for him. And Owen Mellor in 8th position under severe pressure from Elliot Dufton, who had a good ride last time out and finished 7th. He's in 9th this time around, with Oscar Pinson in 10th position. Less than a bike length between the top two as they come onto the start-finish straight once again. This is the closest that Rendell has been. Still no opportunity to get down the inside into turn 1. Harvey Claridge holds the line. 3rd and 4th positions look settled already. Great battle going on for 5th, Jeremy Knight versus Callum Beech. Not easy for these bigger bikes to pass one another, particularly at the high speeds of the front runners. Louis Rendell toe-to-toe quite literally there with Harvey Claridge as they came up to the far side of the circuit. But it's still Claridge who holds on. 9 laps remaining on the counter. And you do feel it's Harvey Claridge and a question of whether he can defend successfully against Louis Rendell for the remainder of this race. He hasn't been able to sprint clear. Another new personal best for Harvey Claridge, another new fastest lap of the race for Louis Rendell. They're trading times here. They come through the infield section. Callum Beach with a new personal best himself as he tries to find a way past Jeremy Knight. All of the riders from 5th down to 9th all setting new personal bests on their previous lap. As the pace gradually increases, approaching the half race distance in race 3 in the Mini GP 70s. Still Claridge versus Rendell. Never more than 0.2 of a second between them. New fastest lap of the race from Harvey Claridge this time, 46.9. Credit to Claridge. He really has a tiger on his tail, but he hasn't put a foot wrong. He's stayed on that racing line diligently. And that is restricting the opportunities that Louis Rendell has to try and make a pass. Abel 3rd, Crockford 4th. Owen Mellor further back. I did say he was under pressure from Elliot Dufton. He has now been passed. So Mellor down to 9th position, Dufton up to 8th. Got quite a margin to recover if he wants to get onto the tail of the three-way fight for 5th. Jeremy Knight, Callum Beach and Luke Coggins, who's joined the back of them now. In terms of the leaders, it's Harvey Claridge and Louis Rendell. Rendell getting a good run off Paddock Bend down the inside, but nowhere near good enough to get past Claridge, the race leader. Jeremy Knight holding on to 5th position. Still Callum Beach trying to find a way past. Still he can't do so. It's clear where the closest fights are. But with 6 laps still remaining, the frenetic activity of the final laps hasn't yet been triggered. No overtaking manoeuvre as yet for top spot, and none for 5th place either. Still Jeremy Knight holding on, as he has done for much of this race. New fastest lap of the race from Harvey Claridge. It's fractionally faster than his previous fastest. But Louis Rendell has stayed right with him, so whatever Claridge sets, Rendell seems to be able to match. He's got a good run off 180. It's the closest he's been, but again can't find a way through. Claridge is positioning himself perfectly to hold on to the place. Jeremy Knight further back, still only a 1/10 of a second up on Callum Beach. Luke Coggins is staying with them, but not quite close enough where he could start to think about an overtaking manoeuvre. Coggins, after finishing in 6th place last time out, a position behind that in 7th this time around. Still less than 0.2 of a second between the top two, and they're still running at a relentless pace. Late 46s, early 47s, and every lap faster than their qualifying pace. Rendell gets close each lap coming off 180, but there's no way to really use that because the track tapers away to a right-hander and then a left, and if you find yourself still alongside the rider going through the left-hander, there really is no room to make a pass. Around the top end of the circuit, Rendell is trying something different now. 4 laps to go. Claridge must be ticking them down in his mind, having failed to hold off Louis Rendell last time out in race 2, having been beaten by Rendell in race 1 as well. Rendell really is all over his tail as they come around turns 1 and 2. Jeremy Knight has, by my reckoning, lost that 5th position now to Callum Beach, and that will put him into the path of Luke Coggins, who sits in 7th position. Coggins running more or less the same pace though as Jeremy Knight. We saw that it was Beach who was the faster. He was closing in on Jeremy Knight. Eventually he's made that move, and now that he's made the move, he's broken clear, half a second a lap faster than Jeremy Knight. And you sense that Rendell might be able to set faster lap times as well, but he can't find a way past Harvey Claridge, who is our race leader, and he has ridden a superb race to hold on to it with 2 laps remaining, 0.2 of a second up. Well, we could have only our second different winner in the 3 races in the Mini GP70 category this weekend, regardless of what goes on here. It's been an excellent weekend for Louis Rendell, the winner of races 1 and 2. He could make it a perfect weekend if he can make it 3 out of 3 here. Goes to the outside into the top turn. He's going to get a good run here. But you can't go all the way around the outside of that left-hander because it goes basically, well, almost a full 360. Rendell again trying to tuck himself in to get down the inside on the start-finish straight. Claridge moves to block. Still less than 0.2 of a second between the lead duo. Jay Abel a distant third, and Brodie Crockford has maintained a 2-second gap to Jay Abel for much of the race. Once again, a good run off 180 for Louis Rendell, but you can see him backing out of it part way down towards the left-hander before Oak Tree. And that's where his momentum carries him into the path of the race leader. Lap traffic could enable a position change here. They're about to encounter Owen Mellor, who's running in 9th position. He's coming into Paddock Bend now. Harvey Claridge right behind him. Louis Rendell in 2nd in the race. And Rendell has gone down off the final turn in pursuit of the race leader. And it's going to be Harvey Claridge who takes the checkered flag. Rendell back on his feet and will come over the line for 2nd place. He was giving it everything on the final turn to stretch every sinew and close on Harvey Claridge. Full credit to Harvey Claridge for an excellent ride. A new fastest lap of the race on the final lap. Louis Rendell will be grateful that he'd amassed a significant lead over Jay Abel. He had time to get back on board and scrabble to the finish line. Jay Abel 3rd position, Brodie Crockford 4th, Callum Beach then in 5th position ahead of Jeremy Knight, who sets a new personal best on the final lap to ensure that 6th place ahead of Luke Coggins and Elliot Dufton. And Owen Mellor stayed on the lead lap. He wasn't quite lapped by Harvey Claridge there, so he is just coming over the line now to complete the finishers in 9th position. Excellent racing from Harvey Claridge and Louis Rendell, who have led this Mini GP70 category right the way through from qualifying and to the end of race 3. And great to see a different name at the top of the timesheets as well. Harvey Claridge holding off Louis Rendell, but it still has been a superb weekend from Rendell with race victories in races 1 and 2. He's just denied on the final turn of race 3 by Harvey Claridge.
Certainly did end up being a bit epic, that race, and that was last-minute dramas. You can't really ask for much, really. On-track greatness, last-minute dramas. I think the only thing we didn't have was a sudden rain shower. Don't want to jinx it for future races, but we don't have that many races left to go. Pit Bike Open, the 3rd and final race from them, is coming up next, followed by the AC40 Pros, and ending the day later with the Mini F1 sidecars. It does appear that we are a few minutes ahead of the schedule, which is no bad thing, but Pit Bike Open bikes are heading out on track right now. And this race again should provide fantastic racing, especially for people tuning in on our live Facebook stream, which is still up and running and going well and live. So I've just been having a quick look at to see actually if Brad Ray has taken to the track for this Pit Bike Open race. I couldn't see him, but there again I can't see many things seemingly, so that doesn't mean much. We will wait till the race begins.
Put your glasses on. Put your glasses on.
I will, yes. I'll give him a good clean. Alex Raby back again to call this brilliant race, which
I don't really go anywhere, incidentally, each time he says that I'm back.
Goes to his... Yeah.
I'm still alongside you.
Okay. Well, he's back on the mic, Alex.
Well, Brad Ray obviously suffered a fall last time he took to the track. So it looks as though he's sitting out this race 3 in the pit bike open category. In theory, that should leave us with a fight between Max Cook and Richard Holmes-Williams, who starts directly behind him. Brandon Payne alongside on the second row. Getting underway with race 3 in the pit bike open category, and the winner of each of the opening 2 races, Max Cook, is the rider who takes the lead. Richard Holmes-Williams straight up into second place. Great start from Will Howarth. He's through from 5th on the grid to 3rd. And that's Josh Ingram up from 6th to 4th by my reckoning as well. So not a good start at all for Brandon Payne, who started on 4th in the grid on the second row is what I was going to say. Brandon Payne started on the second row of the grid. He's ended up down in a 5th position. So he should have been looking for 3rd place going down into the first turn. He's lost 2 places. Max Cook with no such trouble at the end of the opening lap of 14. Leading Richard Holmes-Williams by 0.6 of a second. Will Howarth in a 3rd. This could be a first top 3 finish of the day for Will Howarth, after he finished 4th position last time out. Dane Blackburn took 3rd in race 2, having come through from the tail of the grid. Up to 7th position in this one, race number 3. See if Brandon Payne can try to make up some positions here. Looks as though he's back on the tail now of Josh Ingram, who sits in 4th position. Max Cook leads the way. Richard Holmes-Williams sits in 2nd. Will Howarth in 3rd. Josh Ingram in 4th. Still holding sway there ahead of Brandon Payne. Payne, though, seems the faster of the 2 of them. Dane Blackburn, meanwhile, has continued his recovery through the field. He's up to 6th. Ahead now of Jack Walters. Max Cook with a new fastest lap of the race, a 46.4. Richard Holmes-Williams in 2nd position. The gap remaining static between the top 2, but they're pulling away from Will Howarth in 3rd. And where the fight is for 4th, 5th and 6th positions. Dane Blackburn, 3rd position last time out in race number 2. Is already looking for a way through on 5th position, Brandon Payne. And it looks to me as though he's found it as well. Twisting and turning through Paddock Bend, he's up into 5th place. Payne relegated to 6th. Josh Ingram is the next target for Dane Blackburn. Now, how quickly can he get through the field? Last time around, he managed to get through fast enough to catch and pass Will Howarth. Howarth, therefore, is trying to sprint away as quickly as possible in 3rd place, knowing that Blackburn is running a similar pace, but 2 seconds in arrears of Will Howarth. So that's what the real fight is here, with Brad Ray out of the action and Richard Holmes-Williams only able to maintain the gap to Max Cook, not close it. The fight is for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th positions. As Jack Walters, Josh Ingram rather, is relegated backwards down to 5th, and Dane Blackburn comes through for P4. Max Cook, Richard Holmes-Williams, Will Howarth, Dane Blackburn, Josh Ingram 5th. Quite close for 7th position between Jack Walters and Callum Wybrow, the latter of whom sits in 8th place. So, Dane Blackburn is in a similar position to what he was in race 2. He's worked his way through, he's got up to 4th. Now can he hunt down Will Howarth and take 3rd position by the flag? Max Cook now a second clear. He's just eking out that advantage, a 10th of a second a lap. While Dane Blackburn is leaving Josh Ingram and Brandon Payne now, but those 2 are fighting amongst themselves over 5th. They were fighting earlier in the race over 4th. Now they've both been passed by Dane Blackburn. They've just resumed the fight as before, but now for 5th position. Brandon Payne gets the run off 180. Ingram holds the place. And there's no change as yet. Max Cook, Richard Holmes-Williams are your 2 race leaders. The same top 2 as we had last time out. Josh Ingram in line to match his race 1 finish as he sits in 5th position. narrowly holding off Brandon Payne, who beat him last time out in race 2. Big pack of riders further back, all line astern as well. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, all in a group. Jack Walters, Callum Wybrow, Felix Hearn and Craig Walker. Max Cook with another new fastest lap of the race last time around, running about 0.2 of a second quicker than he did in qualifying yesterday. And only 7 laps remaining, 7 laps complete, half race distance for Max Cook, and it just looks a question of maintaining that pace, avoiding any errors, and he will be set for this checkered flag. The race really is for 3rd and 4th between Will Howarth and Dane Blackburn, the latter of whom has been coming at Howarth by half a second a lap and has closed down something like 4 seconds to make it 1.5 seconds. Still Brandon Payne can't find a way past Josh Ingram for 5th, and still there's a train behind Jack Walters. Callum Wybrow the closest, and Felix Hearn now right with the two of them up ahead. Craig Walker dropping slightly back in 10th position. Race leader Max Cook makes his way past our commentary position once again, still with his advantage intact and setting another new fastest lap of the race. It's becoming a regular occurrence now for Max Cook. Richard Holmes-Williams doing his best to go with that pace. Will Howarth in 3rd. Got to give credit to Will Howarth, who seems to be in almost every race, but doing a great job right the way towards the end of the day here this afternoon. Cook, Holmes-Williams, Howarth are the top 3. Dane Blackburn actually slightly slower than Will Howarth on lap number 8, so that has stagnated that battle somewhat. Brandon Payne did eventually get the better of Josh Ingram, so Ingram relegated down to 6th position behind Brandon Payne in 5th. Will Howarth with a 46.9, Dane Blackburn with a 47.1, so another lap passed and another couple of tenths of a second in favour of Will Howarth. So these positions are starting to settle down. Cook, Holmes-Williams, Howarth, Blackburn. Payne, now that he's passed Ingram, has been able to gap him ever so slightly, half a second. So I think that battle is probably settled as well. 7th and 8th certainly not settled. Jack Walters holding 7th at the moment. Callum Wybrow looking for the inside coming off 180. Trying to find a way to make a pass. Dane Blackburn roaring past the start-finish line once again, but seems that his challenge has faded. He's losing 0.7 of a second a lap now from Will Howarth, down in 4th position. And actually Brandon Payne starting to close in a little bit, but not sure that he will have time in the remaining 4 laps to get there. Callum Wybrow, meanwhile, a new personal best on lap 10. Jack Walters matching him with his own new personal best to hold on to 7th position. 7th and 8th, the most likely places to change in the remaining 3 laps in the pit bike open category. AC40 Pros and sidecars still to come here this afternoon before we round off our action in Red Lodge. Walters and Wybrow in 7th and 8th, Felix Hearn in 9th, and Craig Walker in 10th position behind Josh Ingram, who is lapping now at the same pace as Brandon Payne but 1.5 seconds back. Max Cook enters his penultimate lap, 3 seconds now clear of Richard Holmes-Williams. As I said, at the start of the race he was just eking out that advantage, 1/10 of a second a lap. Now he's taking half a second a lap chunks out of Richard Holmes-Williams, who must have realised that 2nd place is going to be his finishing position here. He is at least 8 seconds clear of Will Howarth in 3rd. And Dane Blackburn has continued to drop back, 4 seconds in arrears now of Will Howarth. after beating Howarth last time out in race number 2. He's not going to repeat the feat in race 3. All of the positions settling down now. Even Callum Wybrow started to drop back from Jack Walters, so 7/8 is looking settled. And barring any surprises on the final lap, we know what the top 10 positions are likely to be. Keep an eye on that 7th and 8th place squabble, though. Still less than half a second between them. They're at the far end of the circuit, while Max Cook is diving down the inside of back markers, going into tight hairpins. Why are you risking that on the last lap? Max Cook with a 4-second lead. He's lunging down the inside of lap traffic, going into tight hairpins with riders coming across the front of him. Doesn't need to be chasing gaps on the final lap, but thankfully for him, he managed to squeeze it off and squeeze it through. And he will now hold on for the checkered flag. Down to the line then, Max Cook makes it 3 wins out of 3. Second place will be Richard Holmes-Williams for a second consecutive race. He tried his best to keep pace with Cook on the opening laps, but eventually finishes 8 seconds in arrears. Great ride from Will Howarth for his first top 3 finish in this class this weekend. It'll be Dane Blackburn in 4th. He did try to close in on Howarth, but was unable to do so. Brandon Payne missed the start, but recovered to 5th position ahead of Josh Ingram. There was a good overtaking manoeuvre from Payne to get the better of Ingram earlier in the race, and that fight going to the flag between Jack Walters and Callum Wybrow is eventually settled in favour of Walters. So your top 10, Max Cook the winner ahead of Richard Holmes-Williams in second, 8 seconds down. Will Howarth with a good 3rd place. Dane Blackburn restricted to 4th, coming through the field well though to get into the top 5. Brandon Payne with 5th position. Josh Ingram overtaking and being overtaken as he ends up in 6th place. Jack Walters holding off Callum Wybrow, with Felix Hearn and Craig Walker rounding out the top 10.
It is go, go, go!
This is the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship.
Time for the penultimate race of the weekend. AC40 Pros are just out on their cycle lap, on their green flag lap, before going to the grid. Following this, it will be the Mini F1 sidecars wrapping up the weekend. And on pole position for this race on the AC40 Pros, it is Ollie Walker.
I feel like I should give you a round of applause each time you get it right.
Well, the one time I said it earlier, it said it was a certain rider. I read it out on the screen and it was wrong. So I'm always... maybe I shouldn't say anything. Alex Raby to talk you through this race, which has suddenly become possibly a wet race. Undeclared, but it is raining.
How many drops this time?
It's more than earlier.
I've got my glasses on. Wouldn't believe it, would you?
It is, yeah, that. I would presume we are.
I'm going to put my hand out of the window.
The official weather method of checking riders.
Wow.
Yeah, riders almost sort of calling for the
Well, they seem to be calling for the guillotine, actually, while making hand under neck gestures.
Is that the international symbol, bike symbol for
no?
Let's put some wets on.
Well, I thought it was the international symbol for a decapitation, but anyway, obviously not.
No word from race control as to what's about to happen, but the rain has eased off within the past few seconds.
Well, we're effectively in the same scenario as we were earlier on, where we had a few drops and the riders wanted to head away to make adjustments. We'll find out what the decision is as soon as possible.
Well, despite that burst of precipitation, it does seem like the skies have cleared and the sun is again threatening to break through. It's certainly suddenly become a bit brighter. So who knows what's going to happen here. Riders on the grid just getting some last minute tips and advice from parents. On the Cool FAB-Racing Facebook page on our live stream, Charlotte Stone says, "Good luck, Rossi, number 13. Cheers, Charlotte. Dazza Blackburn is also tuned in, as is Fiona Coggins, who's, of course, cheering on Luke Coggins, rider number 12. Hello to Carl as well, who's supporting Jay King today, all tuned in to the Facebook live stream, which has, again, amazingly, many thousands of people tuned in from all over the world. So there's going to be another sighting lap, I'm hearing over the radio, and just to double check, I suppose, the conditions on track. So this is going to be, yeah, one more lap and then we'll be go, hopefully. So this is the penultimate race of the weekend. AC40 Pros, race number 3. About to get underway in just a moment's time. Alex Raby still here and resting his vocal cords in anticipation of what will be, no doubt, Alex, a fantastic race.
Always does help when you switch the microphone on. Yes, should be good. Looking forward to seeing whether Johnny Garnes can make his way through the field once again, as he has done in the 2 races so far, race 1. And of course in race 2, where he just came up short against Ollie Walker, who took the checkered flag on that occasion. So we've had 2 different winners in the 2 races so far in the AC40 Pros. We'll see as well what Casey O'Gorman can do after finishing 3rd place first time out and 7th in race number 2 following that fall, while sitting in 2nd place. Makes this a little bit unpredictable, difficult to tell what the result might be in the AC40 Pro category, because the top performers in the championship aren't lining up among the top 4 positions on the grid, and that's what's shaken up our orders and given us plenty of overtaking in the races we've seen so far. Ollie Walker on pole position then, as you said. Casey O'Gorman alongside him, Dylan Mellor and Ryan Hitchcock on the 2nd row. Row 3, Johnny Garnes and Eddie O'Shea. Garnes already once a race winner, taking race 1 in the AC40 Pros yesterday. Alongside him, 5th in race 1, 4th in race 2. 4th row of the grid, James Cook and Ross Maguire. Watch out for him trying to come through the field. 2nd and 3rd, his 2 results. And rounding out the top 10, Taylor Stewart Campbell and Jimmy Parker. Those are your front 5 rows of the grids as we prepare to get underway with race number 3 in the AC40 Pros. Not a good start at all for Casey O'Gorman, who he ends up down in 4th position going into turn 1. Tries to recover it down the inside of turn 2, but no luck there. Watching for Johnny Garnes to see how swiftly he can move through. Well, very swiftly indeed is the early evidence. Ollie Walker is the race leader. Garnes straight up and challenging for the top positions. Casey O'Gorman has dropped back. So a full last time out. 3rd position in race 1. This AC40 Pro category not turning out quite how Casey Gorman might have anticipated this weekend. As they come to the end of lap number 1 then. Johnny Garnes, your new race, Eddie O'Shea. Ollie Walker in 3rd, Casey O'Gorman in 4th position, and O'Gorman dives for the inside on Ollie Walker. That was a brilliant move, all the way around the outside of turn 2 and then down the inside, carrying momentum brilliantly at the start of the infield section. So Ollie Walker drops back from 1st to 4th, and we're into a similar situation to what we were in race number 1, with Eddie O'Shea now involved as well in the action, having made a good break in the early laps. There goes O'Gorman down the inside and through to 2nd position. Another bold inside move, but this time the cutback, Eddie O'Shea repays the compliment. Coming off that long left-hander, O'Gorman just stayed to the right and tried to block pass on the racing line, and he made it work somehow. One thing you have to say for Casey O'Gorman, when he's had to pass, he doesn't have to pass in all the categories he rides in, but when he does have to, he knows how to make those moves. Under yellow flags through turn 2, the race continuing on with Johnny Garnes out in front, Eddie O'Shea in 2nd, 3rd with Casey O'Gorman, Ollie Walker seconds between them in a group at the front. Separate battles further down the order, of course, but the leaders all packed closely together. One error and everything could suddenly change to the tune of 6 lost positions for Johnny Garnes, the race leader, who still has the advantage into Paddock Bend, ahead of Eddie O'Shea. Casey O'Gorman 3rd. This would be his 2nd third place finish in the AC40 Pro class of this race weekend. O'Shea having a nibble at Garnes going into turn 2. O'Gorman, the fan of opportunistic moves, is waiting for O'Shea to move off the racing line so that he can have a go. As we continue on up towards the far end of the circuit, past the oak tree. Race for 3rd position, tightening up as they go around that long left-hander at the far end of the circuit. Casey O'Gorman as well having a go at Eddie O'Shea as he closes in on Johnny Garnes once again. No position changes as yet, but you daren't take your eyes off this squabble for the top 7. Ross Maguire, new fastest lap of the race on that previous lap, did pass Ryan Hitchcock. Next in his sights is Dylan Mellor. They almost rub wheels going through 180, and up the inside comes Ross Maguire for a brilliant overtaking manoeuvre. Haven't seen too many of those today, coming off 180 down the inside, keeping it wound on. And Dylan Mellor cedes the position, drops down to 6th. Ryan Hitchcock has also dropped back. The only position changes so far after the opening lap have been Ross Maguire recovering 2 places. How much further can Maguire get? The top 5 breaking away. Dylan Mellor, after his earlier spurt, is slipping back slightly. Ollie Walker trying for a move here on the tail of Casey O'Gorman. Eddie O'Shea just maintaining that 1/10 of a second deficit to the race leader. Someone's going to have a go at bursting through at some point. The top 5 aren't just going to run nose to tail to the checkered flag and not have a go at making an overtaking manoeuvre. There's 2 laps to go. Should say less than 2 laps by now. They're halfway round lap number 7 of this 8-lap race. Fastest rider on the circuit, Ross Maguire, last lap around. Has he made another pass up into 4th position? He has indeed, and now he's going for 3rd. He's passed Casey O'Gorman as well. Ross Maguire with 2 positions in 1 lap. He's the rider on the mark. Ollie Walker now comes around the outside of Casey O'Gorman. O'Gorman relegated to 5th. Trying to come back through, still side by side, does come back through. O'Gorman recovering 4th. Ollie Walker in 5th place then. Johnny Garnes, Eddie O'Shea, Ross Maguire. Maguire has provided the overtaking and the entertainment. Can he pull off 2 more overtakes though on this final lap? Seems unlikely. Johnny Garnes has held on from start, but will he hold on to finish? All the way around the outside of the long left-hander goes Ross Maguire. He's trying to get maximum possible acceleration onto the Simpson Straight. Still Garnes, O'Shea, Maguire. 3 riders in contention for the victory. Coming around Paddock Bend for the final time. O'Shea launches for the leader, but it's Garnes who holds on. O'Shea over the line in 2nd, Maguire 3rd, O'Gorman 4th, Ollie Walker in 5th, and that group of 5 riders separated by a 2nd over the line. That is utterly ridiculous. Astonishing racing from the top performers there. I was waiting for someone to make a mistake and they didn't. Supreme riding skill from all of the front runners. And well, for our last 2-wheeled race of the day, that is an excellent way to go out with the AC40 Pro category. We've got the sidecars next up, 2-man teams of course, but the last 2-wheeled race sees Johnny Garnes home for the checkered flag ahead of Eddie O'Shea in 2nd, Ross Maguire in 3rd. Maguire with a brilliant pursuit through the field from 7th to 3rd, but eventually just ran out of time to try and make passes on Eddie O'Shea and Johnny Garnes, the top 2 throughout that race. Casey O'Gorman slipping at 1 stage back to 5th, but recovering 4th. So your top 5, Johnny Garnes, Eddie O'Shea, Ross Maguire, Casey O'Gorman and Ollie Walker.
The Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge.
So as the Mini F1 sidecars take to the track for the final race of the weekend and their final race of round 5 of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship from Red Lodge. It's been fantastic to be back here again for the 2nd time in 2017. And will it be another Mick Williams walkaway in this race? Some may say, and some may say no. Alex Raby.
The Stig of the Mini F1 sidecars in the 2017 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championship. The number 26, Mick Williams, lines up on pole position. Yet to be defeated in 2017. Closer races tend to be for positions further down the order. Last time out, it was the battle for 2nd between the number 144 ridden by Mick Lee and the number 17 ridden by Danny Stainer. In fact, there was some rather forceful overtaking manoeuvres going on in that battle as well. Also, watch out for the number 25, ridden by Paul Qualters. They really haven't had good starts at all this weekend, and that really has impeded their progress. Another missed start, but it was tough for any of their rivals to really get past them because they all bunched on the inside line down the straight, let alone around turn one. The number 144, Mick Lee, moving straight up into fourth position, takes a big dive down the inside into the top turn and takes third position at the same time. And actually, the number 25, ridden by Paul Qualters, has dropped down now to fifth position. So 2 overtaking manoeuvres on the opening lap, and both of them seeing Qualters go backwards. Not showing the form at this stage of the season that they did at the start of the year, that number 25 outfit. Certainly showing the same form is the number 26, ridden by Mick Williams, away and gone out in front. Number 17, ridden by Danny Stainer in second position. 144 Mick Lee in third. In terms of the championship, Danny Stainer starting to pull away now from Paul Qualters, who had that DNF and fall, I think is the only way of describing it, last time out, just after the cut through ahead of Oak Tree. Top 5 still fairly closely packed together, and a good race going on for sixth between the number 76, ridden by Adrian Ems, and the 230, ridden by Mark Parker. Parker seems to have the run coming off paddock bends, but not close enough to find a way through. So the number 26 pulling clear then. Mick Williams comfortably out in front, the number 17 in second, the 144 in third. The closest races in terms of position changes, the number 200 ridden by Ben Brunt versus the 25 ridden by Paul Qualters, the race for fourth and fifth. And then the race for sixth and seventh, the 76 versus the 230, Adrian Ems ahead of Mark Parker. 8-lap race, this last race of the day. We started with 6 laps in race 1 of the Mini F1 sidecars, but since they're running the shorter composition of the circuit, they're doing 35-second laps. That really was frantically short in race 1. Still very much sprint racing in race number 2. 36.2 set by Mick Williams, who seems to have backed off the pace now. 2.5 seconds is the leading margin, and unlikely to be caught, the race leader. Not quite as dominant this weekend, not quite such large advantages this weekend as in the 4 rounds so far this season for the number 26, Mick Williams. If anything, looks like the number 17, ridden by Danny Stainer, is closing. If not in this race, then certainly closing the pace differential between the top 2 outfits in the championship. Mick Williams with a new fastest lap of the race, 35.7. Danny Stainer's outfit a second in arrears on that lap, certainly. The number 25, ridden by Paul Qualters, starting to get into something of a rhythm now and chasing fourth place. Race continuing for 6th and 7th. Adrian Ems in P6, Mark Parker in P7. And they're side by side coming back towards us down the Simpson Straight. And I think the number 230's made it through. Job done. Mark Parker ahead of Adrian Ems for the first time in this race number 3. How about the other potential position changes? Well, the number 25, ridden by Paul Qualters, has dropped back from the number 200. Although starts to regain ground down the Simpson Straight. Just wonder whether there's an overtaking manoeuvre in that sidecar outfit. They haven't been able to pull off overtaking manoeuvres all weekend, really, for whatever reason. They haven't seemed to be able to find a way through. Backmarkers could present an opportunity. First of the lap runners, just dropping into territory to be passed. Adrian Ems has now dropped second back from Mark Parker in 6th. As as Mick Williams on the number 26 outfit comes through to take the checkered flag. Danny Stainer will be over the line in a second. Then Mick Lee. The top 3 positions finish as they did in race number 1. Ben Brunt narrowly ahead of Paul Coulters at the checkered flag, so there was no way through in the end for the number 25. Mark Parker and Adrian Ems finishing that way round after their race-long squabble. Simon Ibbotson and John Hosker rounding out the finishers. And that brings us to the conclusion of the final race of the day. The last of 3 rounds of races. And the last of the action with the Mini F1 sidecars. Round 5 of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championship here in Red Lodge.
Thank you very much, Alex Raby. And yes, that brings to a conclusion the end of the running. Thank you very much for everybody who has turned up and participated and raced and took part and marshalled, to all the fathers and as well to the paramedics. A big hello and thank you very much, folks, for taking care of all the kids on track and patching everybody up who needed attendance. And to the championship photographer as well, who does a fantastic job, and you'll be able to see the fruits of his labour later in the week online. So thank you very much. And also to Cool Milk, the championship sponsors, who do a fantastic continuation of developing young riders. And of course to Roger Keys and Rob Keys and Valerie as well, too, for the real backbone and heart and soul of this Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. Thank you very much, Val. Thank you. And thank you as well to Alex Raby for calling all these amazing races. Don't know how you do it. Well done. You can take a breath now. Yeah. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Lester.
He's lost for words. That's it. Well, I hope you have a very safe journey back home, and keep in touch with us on Facebook throughout the week, because we will be on there. And we want to know what you're getting up to.
It's such a good job I'm here, Lester, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll be on Facebook throughout the week, and we want to know what you're getting up to as well. Do keep in touch with us. If you're heading towards Brands Hatch for the BSB, let us know. Send pics, and keep in touch with us on Twitter as well. It's @CoolFabRacing. Thank you very much once again, and we will be back next time out in a good few weeks' time at Wilton Mill. Thank you.
Goodbye.